Ready, recording the session now. Okay, my dear people. So today we're going to be working on our class number 2. It's the week number 2, ready? So it's the second week of the intermediate 2 level. And we're going to start right away with a very simple description. It's going to be an easy exercise. So here I have some pictures of my neighborhood and I recreated, I wrote, I texted a little description of my neighborhood. Okay, so let's start with Santiago, my brother. Read from the beginning until the first period, until here, please.
Okay, my neighborhood is a place where people can walk their dogs because it is a place which has three consecutive parks that make a very big park.
Good, thanks a lot. And Sarah, continue, my dear, from that period until the end.
There is enough space for people who share with pets, but also for those who share with families.
Good, excellent, very good. So in that case, I'm describing some positive things about the neighborhood where I live. It's called Veraguas. It's here. You can find some pictures. There is a picture of the park. Well, actually, as they say, as I said before, it's 3 different parks that create actually one very big park, right? That's it. My dear Luisa, could you please read the last part?
Yes, teacher. And nevertheless, I don't know how you use the pronoun.
Nevertheless.
Nevertheless, there are other people who don't take care of the space where they are on. They affect it when they spend some time there.
Exactly, very good. And the affected, do you remember that this one it's united, like link the two sounds, and the affected when they spend some time there. Very good. Listo. Any questions on vocabulary over here on the words that I used? Questions on vocabulary, maybe?
Nevertheless,
Nevertheless, of course, no, it's in blue. So it's like, what is that? We're going to see that in a minute. Don't worry about it. Well, so nevertheless, it's a connector. It's connecting the first paragraph with the second paragraph. That's why it's the first word with starts the next, the second neighborhood. Ready? The second neighborhood, the second paragraph. Ready? So that's why I am connecting the two paragraphs, the first one with the second one through the use of nevertheless. We're going to meet the meaning in Spanish in a second, okay? Well, other thing is that in the both descriptions or in both paragraphs, I'm describing my neighborhood. I'm giving some different characteristics of my neighborhood, right? I'm saying that it's big, that it's peaceful, that it's, if I had to describe my neighborhood, I would say that it is a big, peaceful, and colorful neighborhood. And let's move it here, colorful neighborhood, right? So in that case, well, that's like the summarized description, like a short description, but the complete description yes, includes all of that, includes more information, includes like a description of why I say that, right? So in these words, in this paragraph, you can identify that some words are in different colors. Which words are in red? Which words are in red?
WH words.
WH words, exactly. Maybe you remember, maybe you don't, but in the like 3 weeks ago, we talked about this WH and we said that they were called relative pronouns. Relative pronouns. Good. All of those WH words, what are doing is exactly the same as nevertheless, connecting ideas, right? For example, in the first place, I'm saying that the first thing is that I am defining my neighborhood. I'm saying that my neighborhood is a place. So we said, okay, my neighborhood is a place. Maybe a person doesn't know what is neighborhood, so I'm describing that my neighborhood is a place. And then I introduce different extra characteristic about the neighborhood. First, that it's a place where the people can walk their dogs. Also, that it's a place which has 3 consecutive parks, Also, that in that place there is enough space for people with animals and also for people with other families, right? With other relatives. So all of this, all the first part is a description of the positive aspects of my neighborhood, which I introduce one by one, connecting with the relative pronouns, right? Why I use the relative pronoun? Easy, because I don't want to say my neighborhood is a place. My neighborhood, in my neighborhood, the people can walk their dogs. In my neighborhood, there are 3 different parks. In my neighborhood, there is no, because I don't have to repeat every time the same subject. I can use the relative pronouns in order to make reference to the previous subject that I previously mentioned, right? Which in this case is my neighborhood, right? And then in the second part, yeah, I'm introducing the negative aspects of my neighborhood, right? So since the first one is the positive aspect, the positive things, the positive aspects, and the second one is the negative, I have to use a connector of contrast, you know, a connector that says, okay, we have these positive aspects, but at the same time, we have other negative aspects. That connector can be nevertheless. Anybody knows what is the meaning of nevertheless in Spanish?
Sin embargo,
Sin embargo, muy bien. Sin embargo, or nevertheless, is a connector that is going to present 2 different points of view. One, which is good, other one that it's not so good, or another one which is a negative part, right? So that's why I use this connector. Do you have in mind other connector that I can use here in this case in replacement of nevertheless?
Teacher, nevertheless, and however is the same.
Exactly. However, it's a synonym of also I can use in replace of nevertheless. Both are going to be connectors of contrast. One thing is black, the other one is white. One thing is big, the other one is small. One thing is good, the other one is small, is bad. So I can have, however, nevertheless, I can have, for example, on the other hand, which is the meaning on the other hand?
Por otro lado.
Por otro lado, very good. Or simply I can introduce but, you know, but of course it's a connector more for the middle of the sentence and not for the beginning. For the beginning, we have these ones. However, on the other hand, or nevertheless, right? We're going to see that in a second, don't worry. But the general thing here is that we are working on descriptions, more complex descriptions, not only saying like, ah, yes, my neighborhood is beautiful. That's it. No, more complete. Oh, no, yeah, my neighborhood is big. And that's it. No, we have to make, in this level, we have the ability or we have the possibility to create more complex descriptions with positive aspects, with negative aspects, with everything that we can include, right? First of all, we're going to see like how can we organize the modifiers of the neighborhood or of the object. In this case are the characteristics. For example, in this case, I use 3 different characteristics. I use big, I use peaceful, and I use colorful. Yes? But is it possible to say colorful, big, and peaceful? Or peaceful, colorful, big, neighborhood? Or is always in the same order? What do you think? What do you know? Is it possible to change this order or is it necessary to maintain it?
I think that I don't matter the order.
It doesn't matter the order. Well, in this case with the adjectives, it matters, okay? Of course, if you make a mistake, it's not a very big mistake, but they have a pre-established order for the adjectives that we want to use. So let's see which is the order. This one, right? So when we're talking about a modifier, yeah, well, we can have adjective, we can have possessive, we can have different things, which is easy, no? So first, we usually use the determiner. Determiner, it's going to be if it's yours, if it's mine, if it's his, if it's only one or the. So I can use, for example, possessive, or I can use also the articles, right? After that, if it's necessary the order, I can introduce it, my first, my second, my third, my fourth, my last, my, you know, and then quantifiers, if it's necessary, yeah, you know, few, some, huge, well, huge, no, sorry, some, a lot, many, and so on, so on. But it's very strange that we use all the modifiers at the same time. We use maybe one or two, but not all at the same time, right? And after that, after these three elements, we are going to include the adjectives, which are the most important modifiers of the object. You know, the adjectives are the characteristics, you know that, and we have different kinds of characteristics, so different kinds of adjectives. First, we have the characteristics of size and opinion of or quality. Sometimes they appear in a different order. First opinion and then the size. I prefer to do it, you know, opinion first and size then, but it's also better. In this case, they can be exchanged, size first and opinion then, but usually it's the other way. After that, we're going to talk about the age or the temperature, the shape. You know what does it mean of shape? Yes, of course.
Forma.
Forma, very good, excellent. And the color, you know, if it's necessary, and the origin, which is like the country or the place where it comes from, like if it's Colombian, if it's Paisa, if it's coastal, if it's indigenous, well, depending the origin, right? And the material, if it's wooden, metal, plastic, artificial, you know, like all the different materials that we have. And after all of those, we're going to have the object, which is the thing that I am describing, right? In this case, sugar bowls, right? That's it. Ready? So in this case, we have seven different kinds of adjectives. But as I said before, it's not very common that we use the seven adjectives in one character, in one description. We may use one or two, three, maximum four, but using more than that, it's not pretty useful because it's confusing, no? So normally we use two or three. For example, I said my neighborhood is a big, peaceful and colorful place. So the first one was about size, right? This one was about size, so which is number one. The second one, peaceful, it can be, or it has to do with my opinion about the place. It's my opinion, it's my, yeah, what I think about the place. It's peaceful. And the last one, you know, well, it has to do with color, which is colorful. So it has to do with color. So I am respecting the order of the adjectives, size, opinion, and color, yeah? And then the object, neighborhood. You know, so after that, yeah, after all the adjectives, I can introduce the object, which is the thing that I am describing. Ready? Remember, if you make a mistake with this order of the adjectives, it's not a problem because anyway, it's understandable, but it doesn't sound natural, you know? So if I said like, oh no, my neighborhood is peaceful, colorful, and big, well, the person understands, of course, but it's not going to sound so natural. So it's better to try to remember the order and try to respect it as much as we can. Ready? Guys, until this part, until the order of the modifiers, questions, difficulties, problems, and anything? Everything good?
Yes, teacher, is clear.
It's clear. Yeah, good.
Teacher is clear, but I think it's like difficult to memorize the order. Like
At
while
first, it's
talking,
difficult.
like while talking, we are thinking like what is first. So I don't know.
No,
It's
it's pretty difficult. To be honest, it's pretty difficult, but it's a matter of custom because the fact is to do it many different times. And usually we tend to use the same adjectives. So we start thinking like, this adjective is before. But after many times, after many repetitions, at first, of course, it's not gonna be easy, but don't worry, you're going to get it eventually. Don't worry, okay?
Okay, thank you.
Bueno, my dear. So good. What about if we find, what would you, or how would you describe this picture? You know, the first picture, the one that is here in the middle. Of course, we are seeing that this is a park. You know, it's a park, easy, no problem. So it's a park. But what adjectives would you use to describe this place, this park? Just tell me one, no problem. Just one, it's all right.
quiet.
Okay, quiet, very good, excellent. Quiet, very good. Any other?
Cold.
Clean,
It looks like cold. Cold, and somebody said on the other one, sorry.
clean,
What did you say, Santi?
clean.
Clean, okay, good, clean. Very good, excellent. Any other, maybe? No, no more. Well, doesn't matter. So with these three, how could you organize these three adjectives? Quiet, of course, it's about opinion because it's the opinion of Majo. Clean, same old, it's the opinion of Santi. And cold, which is about the temperature. You know? So how would you organize these three adjectives and saying that this is a pan park? How would you organize them?
Quiet, clean, and cold.
Quiet, clean, sorry, clean and cold park. Very good, excellent. So since we have two adjectives which are about opinion, which actually are the most common adjectives about opinion, so in that case, it doesn't matter if you put one or the other first because both are in the same category. But of course, cold, which is about temperature, we know that it goes after that, you know, it's going to be in the third position. And actually here it is in the third position, right? So you see, it's going to be a matter of try to think faster, you know, like what is the position that can occupy. But of course, at the same time, I told you like it's not a big mistake if you confuse the places. I mean, it's like the rule and it's going to help you, for example, with the activities in the platform. But if you make a mistake in this part, it's not going to be a very big deal. With time, you're going to see that it doesn't sound so natural to use, for example, big at the end. It doesn't sound so natural. So you yourself are going to start putting the adjectives eventually in the correct place. Okay, so this is a quiet, clean, and cold park. Good, very good, perfect, right? So what about if you tell me, I'm gonna give you 1 minute so you can use some adjectives to describe the place where you live, right? So you can describe your neighborhood, well, because cities in Colombia are actually kind of similar. So it's better to use specifically about your neighborhood. How are your neighborhoods? Try to use it. Organizing the adjectives correctly, using 2 or 3 adjectives are going to be fine. Ready? And of course, you can use the object at the end, which is neighborhood or place or, you know, like a flat. If you want to talk about your apartment, as you prefer. You can talk about your flat, which, sorry, change the color. Flat, which is the same of apartment, you know, it's a synonym of apartment, right? Or you can use your neighborhood. Okay. That's it, no? So basically, or your home, if you live in a house, right? That's it. And use 3 adjectives to describe it, right? So mine is a blah, 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 and then the object that you want to describe. Ready? So take a minute, try to organize your ideas. How is it? Is it big? Is it small? Is it modern? Is it old? Is it antique? How do you feel it? Is that all right? What do you think?
Me.
Go ahead, Sarita, go.
My neighborhood is big, kind of big, quiet and green.
Big, quiet, and green. Excellent, very good. So size, opinion, and color. Very good. Yeah. So my neighborhood is big, quiet, and green. And that's it. Or you could say I live in a big, quiet, and green neighborhood. That's another possibility, right? Good, excellent, Sarita. Thank you so much. Who else? Lisa, go ahead.
Oh, my apartment is the small, I don't know, modern is a quality,
Yeah, of course.
modern, I don't know, I'm very nice.
Good, very good.
Beautiful.
So nice, which is also about opinion, might be before modern, because modern it's about the age, right? So you could say
Oh,
my apartment is small, nice, and modern, or I live in a small, nice, modern apartment.
yes, thank you.
Okay, very good, perfect. Okay, that's it. Anybody else? Santi, how is your house? How is your apartment? How's your neighborhood?
Teacher, my neighborhood is quiet and familiar,
Okay,
and
very
my
good.
my house is big and modern.
And modern, very good, excellent. So he lives in a quiet, familiar neighborhood and also in a big, modern house. Wonderful, that's it, very good. Okay, great, Santi. Pedro, what about you, bro?
Teacher, the park where I run is a medium-sized park, safe and green.
Good, very good. So he used three different adjectives: medium size, safe, and green. Safe is your opinion, so you would say that the park where I run is safe, first opinion, then a shape, like, oh, like, shape, in that case, safe, medium size, green, and green, you know? And after that, after all of them, then you can use the noun, which is park. So you could say, where I run, it's a safe, medium size, and green park. Could be, opinion, shape, and, well, that case is size, sorry. I'm confusing. And then the color, you know? So, but the object is gonna be at the end of the description, at the end of all the adjectives then. Okay? Majo, what about you?
My neighborhood is big, peaceful, and beautiful. So beautiful.
Good, very good. So in that case, big, peaceful, and beautiful. That's it. So she lives in a big, peaceful, beautiful, and beautiful place. That's it. So guys, it can apply not only to places, to actually anything that you want to describe, right? For example, let's reiterate this part. Let me help me here. How can you describe this thing? How would you describe that?
It is a mm, big gray microphone.
Big, gray microphone. Good. Okay, that's great. Very good. So mic, I would say, for example, that it is a big, old or classical gray microphone. Could be also very good. That's it, right? Good, excellent. What about if I found this picture? What about that one? How would you describe that? What is that?
Is a actual smartphone.
Like modern, you know, because actual, remember that actually it's not actual, which is like en realidad, ¿no? Como o verdadero, you know. So when I say actually it's not actual, but it would be modern, you know. So it is a modern. I think that it's big, no? The iPhone 13, it's big, right? It's pretty big and heavy, right? So I would say that it's a big, heavy, modern phone or smartphone. Good, very good. Yes, Santi, excellent. That's it. Very good. Okay. What about if I found the other one? I had another one over here. Wait, you should over here. Let me find over here. This one. What would you say about this one?
It's a big, old, or heavy too. Fun.
Exactly. Well, but heavy would be before old because old is about the age. So it's going to be in the third position. Here it's going to be before old, heavy. You know, so it's a big, heavy, old phone. Bueno, this one is not a smartphone, it's a cell phone, right? So that's it. Very good. So guys, this is the idea of introducing many different adjectives for one object, right? So which is important in the description. It's using the different adjectives. Try to do it as I told you, like in the correct order, which is actually sometimes difficult, not impossible, but sometimes it's possible that we can forget it or just confuse. It's not a big problem because it's not going to produce a confusion, you know? So it's only a matter of naturality or fluency of the context, but it's not going to affect the message, okay? Questions about it? Difficulties, problems over here?
No, for the moment.
Great, okay, good. Well, so that was one of the first parts in here. The second part is actually talking about what we saw here, which were the different connectors over here, right? The first kind of connectors that we have are going to be the WH questions, which Sarah told us, which are relative pronouns, no? So the relative pronouns are going to be, as we said before, connectors that permits the person to include more information depending on the subject that we're talking about. If it's who, of course, it's for people. If it's which, of course, it's for objects, including sometimes places, where for also places with a difference with which we're going to see in a second, and when for talking about moments or situations, right? Who, it's going to be possible to replace it with that, the same as which is going to be possible to replace it with that, and it doesn't happen with where or we or when, which in that case, there is no possibility to replace it with that, right? Guys, in what case, which and where have the possibility to describe places, but with one difference. When I use which for describing a place, I'm saying el cual. So which I'm going to include is a characteristic of the place. For example, my neighborhood is a place which has three consecutive parts. So el cual. It's a characteristic of the place, you know? But when we use where, also for a place, we are saying like en donde. So which I'm going to include there, it's something that, or one thing that I can appreciate or something that I can see, something that happens in that place. It's different. Which is for describing a characteristic of the place, where it's for describing something that happens in that place. Ready? So it's going to be both possible for places, but with one big difference. Yeah, is it clear the difference between where and which? Talking about places? More or less.
Yes,
More
teacher.
sorry, again.
Again, okay, don't worry, good. So, for example, let me just erase this part. I'm gonna say that, Luisa, where do you live? Canada? United States?
Yes, in Canada.
Canada, what is the city?
Toronto.
Toronto, good. So, Toronto, good. So we have here Toronto. Is it cold or hot?
In this moment, it's hot.
In this moment, it's pretty hot. So, Toronto is a big city or a small city?
It's a bit.
It's a very big city, right? So Toronto is a big city. Is really hot right now. Good, that's it. Honey, what is the main kind of like economy activity or economical activity in the city? Maybe, I don't know, like what can I say? Is it about agricultural or is it more technological or is it like, what do you think? Is it industrial?
I think industrial, I don't know, yes.
Good. So let's see that is industrial. So if it's industrial, it means that in Toronto, there are a lot of factories, right? So let's say that. Toronto, good, the same. It's a city, ta, ta, ta. And then, blah, blah, blah. You can find many factories, right? In one of the two descriptions, I'm talking about a characteristic of the city. In the other one, I'm talking about something that happens in that city. What do you think? We have, we have where and we have which, right? What of the both options it's going to be for the first sentence, for the first description? Toronto is a big city.
Which?
Good, very good. Which is really hot right now because it's a characteristic of the place, la cual está caliente en este momento. The other one is something that can happen in that city. So Toronto is a city.
Where
Continue.
you can find many factories.
Exactly like that. You see? So they both are with a city, but for different purposes. One describing a characteristic, the other one describing something that happens in that place. Okay, Luke? Yes?
Yes, I got it. Thank you.
Excellent like that. Good. Well, so remember that in this case, we're going to have different kinds of relative pronouns, right? We can have defining and non-defining. Do you remember that? Remember about defining and non-defining or not so much? So the defining clauses are going to be sentences that define and express what is that. If it's a person, okay, it's a woman, it's a person, it's a professional, it's a man, it's a girl, it's a friend, it's a, define. If it's a place, well, it's a place, or if it's a moment, well, it's a night, it's the day, it's the celebration, it's the festivity, so on, right? All of those are defining because they are introducing what is the subject. For example, in the example of the neighborhood, right? I said, my neighborhood is a place. Usually the first sentence of the description, it's going to be defining because I need to express what is that, right? For example, Sarah, what is the name of your neighborhood in Medellin? What is the name of your neighborhood?
La Inmaculada.
La Inmaculada, good, exactly. So she says La Inmaculada. But for example, here in Bogota, we have a lot of churches, a lot of chapels, which are called La Inmaculada. So I don't know if she's talking about a city, a neighborhood, a chapel, temple. What is she talking about? So she's going to define it saying, no, La Inmaculada is a neighborhood. Is a neighborhood. Is it in Medellin, Rio Negro, Bello, Itagüí? I don't remember.
Envigado, teacher.
Envigado, okay, sorry. So it's a neighborhood in Envigado, right? Specifying first that it's a neighborhood, second, which is in Envigado. And then she can introduce the description that she prefers, where you can find blah, 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 or which is 20 minutes from Medellin, or, the description that she wants. But the first sentence is defined, right? In that case, when we have a defining clause, remember that it's going to be simply using the subject. Oh my God, blacked out. Yeah, the subject and then the defining clause. So usually with verb to be is a the complement. It's a place, it's a city, it's a no sé qué. And then the WH. When, where, who, which, whatever. and then the main information. The main information, the main information is going to be the sentence that I really want to express about that object, what I really want to say. I want to say that she is a person that likes to travel and meet new people, but the information is that she likes to travel and meet new people. The first part is only defining. It's only like a contextualization, that's it, no more. But what I really want to say is the second part, right? So these ones are the defining clauses. So ya nos habían quedado un poquito más claras en la clase de la semana 7. Questions about it, difficulties, problems?
No, teacher.
Okay, great. So it can happen, it can apply to whatever that we want. A person, a place, a moment, a situation, whatever, right? So I can use it. I can use all of them, the defining clauses, for introducing the subject, So for example, I was describing my neighborhood. Yeah. The first thing that I did was, not here. The first thing that I did was introducing the neighborhood. Yeah. Okay, my neighborhood is a place. That's it, Then also I introduced what I wanted to say that were the rest of the informations, right? So that happened with the defining clauses. But remember that we also have non-defining clauses, right? The non-defining clauses are going to be those clauses where I don't introduce defining information. I am not saying who is the person, or I'm not saying what is the place, or I'm not saying if it's a place, or if it's a neighborhood, or if it's no, I'm just making a clarification about that place, right? So in that case, it's going to be the subject, first a comma, then the not defining clause, the clarification, which is with the WH, and then the verb, and then the complement. And after that, the information that I really want to say, right? For example, that, say, my neighborhood, my neighborhood, my neighborhood, comma, I want to say that my neighborhood is not really big. But before that, I want to express, or I want to make a clarification expressing that my neighborhood is near downtown. Yeah, it's near to the center of the city. So that is not the important information. It's only a clarification that I want to make. I do it between commas, which in this case are functioning like parentheses, right? So in that case, I'm saying like my neighborhood, which is near downtown, isn't really big. The information that I introduce here in the middle, it's actually not that important. It's simply because I want to express it like clarifying, like, hey, remember that my neighborhood is in that position, but that is not important information. The important information is at the end. That's what I really want to say. Okay, ready? So it's different from the defining information, because in that case, I don't express essential information. I am not defining anything. I am simply making a clarification about the subject. Ready? About the object. Ready? I can talk about, as I told you, about everything, a place, a person, or whatever, right? So I can say, for example, people, comma, who come to the park, comma, are not always careful nor clean. What is the meaning of nor? Do you remember? Yes, what is the meaning of nor? Oh.
Ni?
Ni, ni tampoco, right? So in that case, I'm saying, okay, I want to say that the people are not always careful nor clean. But I don't know in other neighborhoods, maybe in other neighborhoods I am specifying that it's the people who come to the park. That non-defining information, it's about a person, well, it's about like people in general, but it's for saying that it's not everyone. It's specifically the people who come to the park. Yeah. I don't know in other parks or in other cities how is that, but I know that here the people who come to the park are not always careful nor clean, right? So these non-defining informations are going to, or clauses, are going to help me to specify or clarify, make some clarifications about the object that I'm describing. Ready? How do you feel? More or less, difficult, not difficult?
Teacher, maybe in the practice, we have a lot of
Okay,
questions.
okay. Good, good. If you have questions in the practice, also you can let me know WhatsApp, as usual. Good. Well, so this so far has been happening about the subject. All of these informations are about the subject, A lawyer who works really hard, ¿quién? Pues the lawyer. Earns good money, ¿quién? Pues the lawyer. The informations are both about the subject. But also, and this is the new part, it was like a review, but the new part is that is also a possibility that we can introduce an extra, not essential information about the object of the sentence. That is most of the examples that I had here. For example, here I have subject, a verb, and a complement, whatever it is. And then I can introduce some complementary information about the complement of the first sentence. Example, I don't go to cold places where you need more clothes. Is it talking about me or it's talking about places? The extra information is about what?
The places.
It's talking about the places. So it's not talking about the subject like the other sentences, but it's talking about the object of the sentence, right? My friends enjoy to walk at night when the streets are lonely. It's talking about my friends or what?
Night.
It's talking about the night, o sea, the moment, so that's why I use when, right? They love horror movies, which are very disturbing. ¿Quiénes son disturbing? My friends or the movies? Bueno, both, but the movies, exactly, right? So in this case, the information can be also applied to talking about the complement of the sentence. Actually, that was one of the examples that we had in the example of of my neighborhood, no? So, sorry. So, for example, I said, okay, my neighborhood is a place where you can, where people can walk their dogs because it is a place and it's going to talk again, which has 3 consecutive parts. And here, this information that it's not talking about like, my neighborhood, but about the parks that make a very big part. So that information, it's not about the subject, but it's about the object of the sentence before, of the previous sentence, right? There is enough space for people who share with pets. Okay, who? It's not talking about the place, the neighborhood, but it's talking about the people. Ready? So these connectors, where, which, when, are going to allow me, are going to permit me to introduce extra information about both the subject and also the object of the sentence. Okay? So depending on how do you want to use it, depending on how do you want to use it, you can introduce information about the subject or about the object of the sentence. ¿Vale? How do you feel so far with this last one? Easy, more or less?
It's good, teacher.
Very good. Well, so as I told you before, this is just simply a kind of connector. That's it. But at the same time, well, this is introducing other different informations. But when we want to connect paragraph or different ideas, because in this case, I'm connecting the same idea. When I want to connect different ideas or different paragraphs, yeah, I can have other different kinds of connectors. Like, for example, in this case, we're going to focus on the connectors of contrasting information. I'm going to have despite, in spite of, even though, although, and the three that we saw, however, nevertheless, and on the other hand, right? Guys, despite and in spite of, what is the meaning of them? It's the same. Despite and in spite of, what is the meaning of them?
A pesar de,
A pesar de, very good. So equally as in Spanish, when we talk about despite or in spite of, it's a contrasting idea. But the idea that is after them, it's going to be a noun phrase. What is the meaning of a noun phrase? Una oración nominal. It means that it doesn't have a verb. It's only a noun. It's not a verb. It doesn't have a verb. It's only a noun. For example, I love Bogota. I love Bogota despite of, no, sorry, it is only despite, no, in spite of, also only despite the weather. I don't like so much the weather in Bogota, but I love the city, you know? So despite the weather, I love Bogota. After despite or in spite of, I don't have a verb. I simply have a noun, un sustantivo, no more. I don't have a verb. Of course, I can say, in spite of the weather, I love Bogota. So these connectors can be at the beginning, the sentence number one, comma, and the sentence number two, or they can have sentence number one, connector in the middle, and then the other sentence, like this example, you know? I love Bogota, sentence number one, despite, and then the noun phrase, despite the weather. Or the other possibility, in spite of, in spite of the weather, yeah, comma, I love Bogota. First couple of connectors, despite and in spite of, ready? In the second part, in the second case, I have even though or although. What is the meaning of them? What is the meaning of those two? Even though and although.
Aunque.
Aunque, very good, you know. Also, you can find it as sin embargo, you know, also sometimes, yeah. O a pesar de, also sometimes, you know, but in different dictionaries. But the use is the same, is for contrasting, but in like the practice is different. Why? Because in this case, when we have even though and although, the sentences are going to be complete. So it's not like despite and in spite of that it only has a noun phrase. No, in this case, both sentences, sentence number one and sentence number two, are going to be complete. Subject, verb, and complement, right? But the difference here is that these two sentences are going to be connected. It means that one idea is not complete without the other one. It requires the second idea to be complete, you know? For example, I love Bogota, even though, yeah, it's traffic problems. When I say it's traffic problems, I am making reference to something that is on the previous sentence, you know, that it's the city of Bogota. If I say it's traffic problems, the sentence is incomplete because I don't know it's. What is that it's, right? So the sentence number two requires the other sentence to be complete. So these sentences are subordinated because they are complementary, right? So in this case is where I can include the connectors even though or although. The sentences are contrasting but connected. They are not separated because they require the other one to be complete. Ready? Okay. And finally, well, in this case, it happens the same. Can be at the beginning or can be in the middle. I could say, I love Bogota, even though it's traffic problems, or although Bogota's traffic problems, comma, I love it. Could be, right? Of course, and it's the same idea, also coordinated sentences, right? And in the last part, or in the third case, we have, however, nevertheless, and on the other hand, these connectors are completely different from the other two because I mean, the meaning is similar because it's, you know, sin embargo, ready? But in this case, it's two different, completely different and separated ideas, you know? For example, the first one, same as before. I love Bogota. But always there is a period. In the other cases, we didn't have a period because they were connected. They were the same idea. So we didn't want it to separate, right? So, but in this case, we want to make a full stop here because what we're going to introduce after that is a completely new idea, right? So you said, I have lived here in Bogota for 30 years and in summary, I love Bogota, period, stop. Then one of the connectors, however, nevertheless, or on the other hand. After the connector, you know, as if you notice here in the exercise of the neighborhood, wait, here, I have a comma, you know, it's like the connector and then a comma, or it's a possibility to have a semicolon. Semicolon, you know, it's punto y coma. So I can have comma or a semicolon, and then I introduce with the next ID, right? So I would say, well, I love Bogota, period. That's it. Nevertheless, I want to move to, I don't know, I want to move to Medellin because blah, blah, blah. I want to move to Medellin because that's another complete idea different from the first one, but it's contrasting. It's contradictory with the previous idea. I said, I love Bogota, okay, but in contrast, I want other thing, like I want to move to Medellin, but it's a different completely idea. So that's why I separated with period and I introduced one of the three connectors. However, nevertheless, or on the other hand. Ready? I know it's a lot of information. I know it's like kind of confusing sometimes, but like, you know, it's easy if you remember the three different uses, okay? How do you feel? Questions, difficulties, examples, what do you think?
Teacher, for the moment, I don't have question.
Okay, very good, Luke. What about Santi, Majo, Sara, Pedro? Questions, guys? Are you processing it or what? Oh, it's all right.
No question, teacher.
No questions.
No question, teacher.
Very good. It's some idea. Bueno, guys, what I want you to do is something super short. Ready? I would like you to think in the neighborhood or the apartment or wherever the place that you want to describe. Ready? And do a short description, not so long as my description, not so long as the other one, but something similar to this, you know, but shorter, no? So not necessarily all the aspects of the neighborhood, but something shorter. And introduce, what I want you to do is to introduce one good aspect and the other one which is not that good. Ready? So that you can introduce connectors. Might be the WH or might be one of these connectors too. Ready? So think for a minute, super fast. Try to think. Maybe, for example, Majo can describe Santa Marta if she wants, or Luisa can describe, well, Toronto or here, the city where she's from, or, you know, describe the place that you prefer. Okay? Try to do it using the WH and also these connectors. Okay?
So, teacher, for example, I don't know, the downtown Toronto is very beautiful. However, there are a lot homeless.
Good, very good. Good, excellent. So just one correction, my dear. It's Toronto's downtown, the other way. Not downtown's Toronto, but Toronto's downtown. Good.
Okay, yes, I think about this, but I'm not sure. So sorry.
Good. Toronto's downtown.
Yes.
Very good, excellent. It's very beautiful. However, you said
However, there
are a lot of homeless people. Good. For example, those two ideas are very connected because when I say there are a lot of homeless people, I said there, but where? Where is there? ¿A qué te refieres con there? When you said, no, pues Toronto's downtown. Okay, so in that case, it's better to use even though, because the two sentences are very, very connected. right? It's the same idea. So in that case, I would say, for example, Toronto's downtown is beautiful. You know, beautiful. Even though there are a lot of homeless people. There are lots of homeless people. Okay, muy bien. Very good. Thank you, Luisa. That's it. That's a good example. Anybody else?
Me.
Right.
I love living in Envigado, but despite there have a lot of hills.
Okay, very good. So I love living in Envigado, right? Despite, right? Recuerda que despite solo tiene un sustantivo después, no tiene verbo después. Entonces simplemente lo puedes acortar, decir, I love living in Envigado despite the hills. That's it. Eso es todo. Good. ¿Listo? Perfecto. That's it. Muy bien. So, más sencillo cuando uso despite porque es solamente el sustantivo. Es decir, que lo tengo que acortar, eliminar el verbo.
Okay, teacher, thank you.
Good. Excellent. I would say, for example, as Luisa can also say it here, Toronto's downtown is beautiful despite the homeless people. That's it. Not necessarily there are, no, just despite the homeless people. Here, despite the hills, right? Perfecto. Or if you want to describe it completely, I love living in Envigado, even though it has a lot of hills. Puede ser the other option, right? Excelente, muy bien, very good. What about Santi, Pedro, Majo, what do you think?
Me, teacher. In my case, my neighborhood is in a residential area, so it is calm. Although there have been robberies in the area that have made it unsafe.
Okay, very good. Good, because in this case, Santi used both, right? So he says, my neighborhood is in a residential area. So, so it is safe. Even though first connector, even though there have been there have been some robberies that made it unsafe, right? So in the first part, he introduced the complete description of the place, right? Making a connection with la contrasting idea, and also making a connection that these robberies have made it unsafe using the connector that, which is a replacement of which, no? So very good. Thank you, Santi. Wonderful example, my friend. Majo, you were going to say something before?
Yes, I'm gonna talk about Santa Marta. There is a place where you can find big and beautiful beaches, and despite the horrible hot weather, it is still been a cool place.
Excellent. So she says, okay, there it's a place where you can find beautiful beaches. Despite the horrible hot weather, and it is still a very cool place. So using first the connection where and then the connection despite. No, yes. First the connection where and then the connection despite in order to introduce a very complete description about Santa Marta. Thank you, my dear. And finally, Pedro, my friend.
My neighborhood is a place which had different kind of stores where you can find articles.
Excellent. Very good. Well, in that case, he didn't contrast anything, but he complemented in both ways. Okay, my neighborhood, it's a place where you can find different stores, which has different goods. Goods is like como bienes, no? Different goods and articles. Muy bien, very good, excellent. That's it. Yes. So, guys, the idea is that, well, in this case, in this class, the idea was making complete descriptions, like avoiding that, like, okay, and how is Santa Marta? Santa Marta is good. Santa Marta is beautiful. Santa Marta is hot. Santa Marta is cool. Not like making all of those descriptions in one, ready? and connected all of those ideas, because for sure you have many ideas about the place where you live, but making all of those ideas connected better, sometimes contrasting, sometimes complementary information, so you can find it there. I don't know if you're in the WhatsApp group, but in the WhatsApp group, I left a video about connectors. Have you seen it or not really? Did you see the video about connectors in WhatsApp? I sent it.
No, I didn't.
Well, nevertheless, it's in the WhatsApp group. It's about connectors because there are different kinds of connectors, not only about contrasting or complementary. There are different kinds of connectors, you know. Let me find the video so I can share it with you. 1 second, 1 second. No, here it is not. Over here. We can have it like here. Wait. Here, Lisa's. Yeah, that's it. Write it on Instagram. Tangos is not here. Well, I'm gonna find it and I send it the next week, the next class. I share it with you, okay? Because it's a good video about connectors. So if I write, I know where I can find it. Okay, don't worry. Here in tips, you know, this WhatsApp, this page is created for you. Here, this is the connected video that I need. Okay. That's the video, ready? So it's about connectors, so you can have like a little idea of all different kinds of connectors that we have. Ready? So we have a lot of different kinds of connectors, so you can find it. Connectors of exemplification, connectors of contrast, but in this class, the idea was just focusing on the connectors of contrast and on the relative clauses in order to connect the same idea on different ideas of the same subject better. Ready? And also, don't forget the part of the description of the order of the adjectives. Ready? So I hope that everything has been clear, guys. Do you have any questions, difficulties, any final doubt? No, everything fine.
Yes, teacher.
These are my dear people. Well, so for the moment, that would be all. See you the next week. The next week, we have 2 classes, 3.1 and 3.2. So see you there. That's it. Okay, so see you next class. Have a wonderful week. Enjoy the holiday, that it's Monday on holiday. That's it. See you next class. Have a good week. Sleep tight. Thank you for the attention.
Thank you, teacher.
Thanks. See
Thank
you.
you.
Good
Bye.
teacher.
Goodbye. See you
Bye.
later. Goodbye.
Teacher.